They were sent to patrol the edge of known space, but found something that shouldn't exist. A legend thought Lost returns, carrying a deadly secret spanning half a century. As Captain Riley Cross leads his team aboard the mysterious vessel, they'll discover an enemy that breaks every law of physics and biology. When infection becomes inevitable and time itself turns against them, this crew must face their greatest fear. How do you fight what you can't contain? And when survival means destroying history itself. Subscribe now to uncover the chilling truth behind the Alcacer mystery. The Phoenix glided through the velvet void, its sleek hull reflecting distant starlight as it patrolled the edge of the neutral zone. Captain Riley Cross stood on the bridge, his experienced eyes scanning the sensor displays while sipping black coffee. 50 years ago, almost to the day, the Alcacer had vanished without a trace during its maiden voyage, a tragedy that still haunted space exploration records. Logan, the ship's chief engineer, was running routine diagnostics when the proximity alert shattered the calm. "Captain, we've got something massive drifting at coordinates 22 by 14, he reported, his fingers dancing across holographic interfaces. The object materialized on the main screen, a battered cruiser bearing unmistakable resemblance to the long-lost vessel. Cross set down his coffee mug, feeling the weight of history pressing upon him. He'd studied the Alcacer case during his academy days, a state-of-the-art research vessel that disappeared while investigating a newly discovered nebula. The official report cited probable destruction due to spatial anomalies, but conspiracy theories ranged from alien abduction to experimental technology gone wrong. Now, staring at the grainy image on a screen, he wondered if they were about to rewrite history books. "Magnify Sector Delta 4, he commanded, watching as the imaging system enhanced details. Burn marks scarred the hull where escape pods should have been, and several sections showed signs of explosive decompression. Logan cross-referenced the vessel's silhouette against historical databases. "It's her, Captain. The Alcacer. Same class design, identical registry markings." His voice carried a mixture of professional excitement and personal apprehension. Space exploration depended heavily on precedent and protocol, and encountering a ghost ship violated every established norm. The Phoenix's sensors painted a conflicting picture. Radiation levels suggested recent activity, yet structural degradation pointed to decades of exposure. "Life support systems are fluctuating," Logan continued, adjusting his scanner. "Not enough to sustain human life, but definitely not completely dead either." Lieutenant Nora Falcone arrived on the bridge, her tactical gear clicking softly with each step. Her sharp eyes immediately locked onto the main viewer. "That's impossible," she stated, moving to the tactical station. Even if it survived intact, 50 years of cosmic radiation would have turned that ship into a floating tomb. Yet her instruments told a different story. Faint energy signatures pulsed irregularly, like a heartbeat struggling to maintain rhythm. "I'm reading intermittent power surges throughout the vessel," she reported, fingers flying across controls. "Mostly in engineering and medical sections." Cross considered their options carefully. Protocol demanded immediate quarantine and remote investigation, but something about the situation felt profoundly personal. During his early career, he'd served under Captain Eldridge, one of the Alcacer's original designers. The old man had never recovered from the loss, spending his final years obsessively searching for answers. Now fate had placed Cross at the center of this mystery. "Prepare an away team," he decided, ignoring Logan's subtle headshake of concern. "Full biohazard protocols. We board in 30 minutes. As preparations began, he couldn't shake the feeling that they were about to uncover something far beyond their understanding. Lieutenant Nora Falcone arrived on the bridge, her hand instinctively resting on her plasma pistol. "That can't be right," she stated, studying the readings. "Radiation levels are off the charts, and those hull markings, they match the Alcacer's registry." Cross felt a chill despite the ship's regulated temperature. Space vessels didn't just reappear after half a century. Logan enhanced the image, revealing scorch marks and structural damage consistent with ancient battle scars. "Life support shows intermittent activity," he noted, voice tinged with unease. "Like someone's trying to keep systems running manually." Cross made his decision, knowing full well the risks of boarding an unknown vessel, especially one shrouded in so much mystery. He ordered preparation of an away team while Nora coordinated security protocols. Nora's tactical mind raced through potential scenarios. Standard operating procedures for derelict ships emphasized extreme caution, particularly those with questionable histories. She began assembling equipment: Class 4 containment suits, portable EM field generators, quantum spectrum analyzers, anything that might provide an edge against unknown threats. Logan joined her in the equipment bay, his technical expertise invaluable for configuring specialized gear. "We need to prepare for temporal anomalies," he suggested, modifying standard scanners with experimental chronometric sensors. If this ship really is 50 years out of sync, conventional instruments might give false readings. Their shuttlecraft, designated Raven 1, required custom modifications for interfacing with outdated docking systems. Logan worked methodically, adapting modern couplings to fit ancient airlock specifications. Meanwhile, Nora ran combat simulations, programming their tactical AI with historical data about the Alcacer's layout and defensive capabilities. "Assuming weapon systems are offline," she mused aloud, "but we can't count on that. Some automated defenses might still be active." Cross joined them, reviewing their preparations with critical eyes. His experience demanded perfection in every detail, from emergency extraction procedures to contingency plans for unexpected phenomena. As they suited up, Logan shared additional findings from deeper sensor analysis. "The power fluctuations aren't random," he explained, securing his helmet. "They're following a pattern similar to organic brainwave activity. Like parts of the ship are thinking." This revelation added another layer of complexity to their mission. They weren't just exploring a derelict vessel, they were potentially dealing with an intelligent system that had evolved beyond its original programming. Nora adjusted her weapon settings accordingly, configuring for both biological and technological targets. Their approach vector required precise calculations to avoid triggering any remaining defensive systems. Logan plotted a course that minimized electromagnetic interference while maintaining optimal communication range. "We'll dock at the primary science lab," Cross decided. "If there's any chance of recovering data logs, that's where we'll find them." The shuttle's exterior cameras captured increasingly detailed images as they closed distance. Strange crystalline formations coated portions of the hull, pulsating with faint light that defied spectral analysis. "Those weren't part of the original design," Logan observed, recording everything with multiple redundancy systems. Nora maintained constant vigilance, her tactical display showing nothing but empty space around them. Yet something felt off. The hairs on her neck stood up, a primal warning system honed through years of service. She activated additional sensor sweeps, searching for anything their technology might be missing. "Keep your wits about you," Cross advised over the comms. "Whatever happened here, it's had 50 years to develop defenses against curious visitors." Their shuttlecraft's docking clamps engaged with a satisfying thud, sealing against the ancient airlock. The moment of truth had arrived. The airlock cycled open with a groan that echoed through their helmets, revealing a corridor frozen in time. Logan couldn't shake the feeling they were being watched. The Alcacer loomed larger, its once proud silhouette now a jagged silhouette against the stars. Docking proved challenging. 50-year-old airlocks weren't designed for modern craft. Once inside, the stale air carried a metallic tang that set everyone's nerves on edge. Emergency lighting flickered through corridors lined with decades of dust and debris. Personal belongings floated in zero gravity: data pads, family photos, maintenance tools, all frozen in time like artifacts in a cosmic museum. Nora swept each compartment methodically, her weapon ready, while Logan documented everything with his wrist scanner. Every step forward revealed new layers of tragedy. Family portraits hung askew on bulkheads, their subjects smiling unknowingly at cameras moments before disaster struck. Logan paused to examine a child's toy caught mid-flight, its cheerful colors faded by radiation. "These people had lives waiting for them back home," he murmured, recording environmental readings. The ship's internal chronometers displayed dates from 50 years ago, stubbornly refusing to acknowledge the passage of time. Temperature fluctuations suggested localized pockets of preserved atmosphere, creating surreal microenvironments where time seemed to flow differently. Nora's tactical scans detected minute vibrations throughout the structure, like the ship itself was breathing. She marked each location for further investigation, noting how some areas registered higher energy readings than others. "Captain, I'm picking up traces of organic matter in engineering," she reported, her voice steady despite growing unease. "Something's keeping the reactor core partially active." Cross acknowledged, directing Logan to prioritize that section for analysis. The engineer's instruments detected complex harmonic patterns emanating from deep within the ship's infrastructure, suggesting self-sustaining processes that shouldn't exist in abandoned vessels. As they progressed, Logan discovered maintenance logs partially preserved in hardened data crystals. Fragments of text described increasingly desperate attempts to contain some unknown phenomenon. They mention temporal echoes becoming stronger, he translated, brushing dust from delicate components. Crew members reporting visions of past events, experiencing déjà vu loops lasting hours. Nora secured each compartment behind them, establishing safe zones in case rapid evacuation became necessary. Her tactical display showed anomalous readings near the medical bay, life support systems cycling erratically, as if responding to invisible occupants. The deeper they ventured, the more pronounced became the sensation of unseen presence. Air currents moved against expected patterns, carrying whispers too faint for audio recorders to capture, but clear enough to raise goosebumps. Logan's scanning equipment registered quantum fluctuations matching theoretical models of primitive wormhole formation. "This isn't just radiation damage," he concluded. "Some form of exotic energy has permeated the entire ship." Their path led toward the bridge, where hopefully intact command logs might reveal the final hours of the Alcacer's doomed mission. The ship's log system was partially intact, and Logan managed to recover fragments of recordings. Static-filled voices spoke of strange energy readings and unexplained power surges before communications abruptly ceased. What truly disturbed them was the medical bay. Preserved samples in stasis chambers showed cellular degradation patterns unlike anything in their database. "This isn't natural decomposition," Logan muttered, analyzing the data. "It's like their DNA was unraveling." Cross-examined the crew manifest, recognizing several names from historical archives. These people had families waiting for answers that never came. The deeper they ventured into the ship, the stronger became the sensation of unseen eyes tracking their movements. Logan's hands trembled slightly as he extracted corrupted data files from ancient storage units. Each successful recovery brought new horror, medical scans showing cellular structures breaking down and reforming in impossible configurations. "Look at these mitochondrial patterns," he explained, enlarging microscopic images on his portable display. "They're oscillating between evolutionary states. One moment they're human, the next they resemble something older." The implications were staggering. Whatever had infected the crew wasn't merely killing them, it was rewriting their fundamental biological code. Nora maintained perimeter security while monitoring environmental changes. Gravity fields fluctuated unpredictably, sometimes pulling downward with crushing force, other times lifting objects gently into the air. Temperature gradients created bizarre visual distortions, making corridors appear to stretch and compress. Her tactical sensors detected movement patterns that defied physical laws, shadows detaching from walls, equipment rearranging itself when no one was looking. "Captain, I recommend we establish a fallback position," she suggested, though her training urged her to investigate these anomalies further. Cross spent precious minutes cross-referencing recovered personnel files with historical records. Many of these crew members had been pioneers in their fields: xenobiologists, quantum physicists, temporal mechanics experts. Their collective knowledge had represented humanity's best hope for understanding frontier space phenomena. Now their tragic fate threatened to become a warning rather than a mystery solved. Logan's analysis of medical equipment revealed hastily implemented protocols for containing something that reacted to traditional quarantine measures like water to fire. Personal effects scattered throughout the medical bay told stories of individual struggles. A researcher's notebook detailed increasing difficulty maintaining experiment schedules as time seemed to speed up and slow down randomly. Another log mentioned crew members aging visibly overnight, then inexplicably reverting to younger states. They were fighting on two fronts, Logan realized, against the infection and against time itself fracturing around them. Environmental controls showed manual overrides initiated repeatedly, suggesting desperate attempts to stabilize conditions. Nora's perimeter scans detected something new, faint energy signatures matching human brainwave patterns but operating at frequencies outside normal ranges. Whatever happened here, she reported grimly, it didn't stop with physical contamination. Something's still active in these corridors. The realization that they might not be alone aboard the derelict ship sent fresh waves of tension through their small team. Yet turning back would mean abandoning answers to questions that had haunted space exploration for half a century. In the engineering section, they discovered modified equipment suggesting desperate attempts to contain something. Warning messages scrawled across bulkheads in multiple languages told of quarantine protocols and evacuation orders. Logan pieced together that the crew had encountered an unknown phenomenon near a collapsing star, bringing back microscopic particles that began affecting organic matter. They called it temporal strain in these notes, he explained, holding up recovered data crystals. Something about quantum entanglement causing biological regression. Nora detected movement in the adjacent corridor. Quick, furtive shadows that disappeared before visual confirmation. Her security scans registered nothing solid, yet the sensation of being stalked intensified. The engineering bay revealed a masterpiece of improvised solutions, containment fields jury-rigged from experimental technology, power conduits rewired to create temporal buffers. Logan traced the modifications back through multiple iterations, each more desperate than the last. They were trying to create a stable time bubble, he deduced, examining crystalline matrices embedded in the bulkheads. These makeshift devices showed signs of tremendous strain. Their molecular structures stretched beyond intended limits. Energy readings indicated repeated failures followed by equally determined repairs. Nora's tactical display highlighted concentric zones of temporal instability radiating outward from the core chamber. It's like ripples in a pond, she observed, marking affected areas. Each wave carries information from different points in time. She demonstrated how objects in certain sectors appeared simultaneously new and ancient, their atoms vibrating at conflicting frequencies. Equipment bore where patterns inconsistent with actual usage. Some components looked pristine while others showed centuries of decay. The crew must have been living through multiple timelines at once, she theorized, watching a maintenance bot execute commands from 50 years ago alongside current instructions. Cross-examined handwritten notes left by the chief engineer, detailing increasingly surreal experiences. Staff reported seeing themselves working in adjacent compartments, only to discover those counterparts vanished upon investigation. Tools would disappear from workstations, then reappear hours later covered in rust. The very fabric of causality seemed to unravel around them, forcing the engineers to develop entirely new methodologies for basic tasks. Logan identified remnants of advanced containment protocols never recorded in official databases, evidence that the crew had pioneered unprecedented solutions under impossible conditions. Movement detectors registered phantom readings throughout the engineering section. Temperature fluctuations suggested heat signatures passing through walls, while pressure sensors indicated mass displacement without corresponding visual confirmation. Nora's heightened senses picked up subtle shifts in air density, like invisible entities brushing past them. Security protocols were rewritten daily, she noted, reviewing access logs. Sometimes locking down entire sections, other times opening them based on, predictive algorithms maybe? The surviving systems seemed to operate on logic beyond contemporary understanding. Logan's technical analysis revealed that the crew had attempted to harness the same forces threatening to destroy them. Power conduits showed evidence of reverse engineering quantum phenomena, while coolant systems had been modified to regulate temporal flux rather than temperature. They were trying to turn the infection inward, he realized, to collapse the anomaly through controlled feedback loops. This discovery raised troubling questions about the true nature of their find. Were they facing a natural phenomenon or something more deliberately engineered? The command center yielded more clues. Personal logs revealed the crew's growing terror as members began exhibiting symptoms: accelerated aging in some, reverse development in others. Time itself seemed to fracture around them, with events occurring out of sequence. Equipment would show where patterns inconsistent with actual usage, and food supplies decayed at impossible rates. Logan reconstructed partial sensor data indicating a temporal field emanating from Cargo Bay 7. Whatever they brought aboard wasn't just physical, he concluded. It's affecting causality itself. Cross authorized further investigation, though his instincts screamed caution. The implications were staggering. If this entity could manipulate time, containing it might be impossible. Within the command center's damaged systems, Logan uncovered fragmented video logs showing crew members interacting with multiple versions of themselves. In one particularly disturbing recording, Chief Science Officer Harris appeared in 3 distinct age stages simultaneously: elderly, middle-aged, and youthful forms debating strategy around a conference table. Temporal convergence zones, Logan diagnosed, analyzing background radiation patterns. Areas where different time streams overlap and interact. These zones expanded and contracted unpredictably, sometimes trapping individuals in continuous loops of specific moments. NORA security protocols detected alarming patterns in personnel movement. Access logs showed individuals entering compartments but never leaving, while others exited rooms they'd never entered. Environmental controls struggled to maintain consistency as temperature, gravity, and atmospheric composition shifted according to conflicting temporal influences. It's like the ship exists in multiple states at once, she explained, demonstrating how wall panels displayed both pristine condition and severe corrosion simultaneously. Their own equipment began behaving erratically, chronometers racing forward then backward, communication devices transmitting messages from hours ago alongside current transmissions. Cross-reviewed, recovered command decisions that grew increasingly desperate. Orders contradicted themselves across different time frames, with captains issuing conflicting directives that somehow remained valid in their respective temporal contexts. Logan discovered evidence of temporal echo cancellation protocols, sophisticated algorithms designed to prevent paradoxes by selectively erasing certain actions from existence. They were editing reality itself, he whispered, tracing power flows through quantum processors. These interventions left ghostly imprints in the ship's infrastructure, visible only through specialized scanning equipment. The deeper they delved into command operations, the more apparent became the crew's ultimate realization: they weren't merely fighting an infection. They were battling a fundamental shift in the nature of existence aboard the Alcacer. Engineering teams had developed temporal shielding techniques, while medical staff experimented with consciousness transfer protocols to preserve individual identity across fracturing timelines. They knew traditional quarantine wouldn't work, Logan understood, examining failed attempts to isolate affected sections. The contamination spread through time itself, not just physical space. NORA's tactical analysis revealed that security measures had evolved to address threats existing simultaneously in past, present, and future states. Weapon systems were calibrated to target probability fields rather than physical bodies, while surveillance equipment monitored temporal displacement patterns rather than conventional movement. By the end, she concluded, they weren't protecting the ship from invaders. They were trying to protect reality from whatever they'd unleashed. This chilling assessment underscored the magnitude of their discovery: not just a derelict vessel, but a laboratory where the very fabric of existence had been torn apart and stitched back together in horrifying new ways. Cargo Bay 7 contained the source, a crystalline structure pulsating with iridescent light. Its geometric patterns shifted constantly, defying conventional physics. Readings indicated it existed simultaneously in multiple temporal states. This explains the radiation spikes, Logan whispered, awestruck. The crystals creating micro-wormholes through time. Ancient preservation techniques had failed spectacularly. Instead of containing the sample, they amplified its effects. Crew logs described how infected personnel would suddenly appear younger or older, memories becoming fragmented. Some claimed to experience future events, while others regressed to childhood states. Nora maintained perimeter guard, noting increasing instances of equipment malfunction and spatial distortions. The crystalline matrix presented a paradoxical structure. Its atomic bonds oscillated between states of formation and dissolution, creating and destroying connections faster than their instruments could measure. Logan's scanning equipment registered quantum entanglements stretching across impossible distances, linking the crystal to locations throughout the ship's past and future. It's not just affecting local time, he realized, observing how the patterns resonated with recovered data from earlier investigations. It's anchoring itself through every significant event in the ship's history. The crystal acted as a nexus point, drawing energy from moments yet to occur while feeding off events already past. Nora's tactical sensors detected temporal eddies swirling around the structure, creating miniature time loops that trapped objects and energy in endless cycles. Tools left by maintenance crews orbited the crystal in impossible trajectories, their surfaces showing wear equivalent to centuries of use, while remaining structurally intact. Containment protocols were rewritten hundreds of times, she noted, examining scorched bulkheads where previous attempts had failed catastrophically. The crew had tried electromagnetic fields, gravimetric shields, even pure force barriers, each solution working briefly before the crystal adapted and overwhelmed their efforts. Cross-examined personal effects surrounding the containment area. Photographs pinned to walls showed faces aging and de-aging in impossible sequences. Family trees sketched on bulkheads displayed generations appearing and disappearing as if time itself couldn't decide which version was correct. Logan discovered that the crystal's influence extended beyond physical effects. Neural patterns of those who spent time nearby showed complex overlays of memory states, with individuals recalling events from lives they hadn't lived yet or forgotten existences they'd never experience. It's not just changing them physically, he explained. It's rewriting their fundamental timeline. The cargo bay's environmental controls had been modified to generate opposing temporal fields, attempting to cancel out the crystal's influence through destructive interference. These countermeasures left behind ghostly impressions in the ship's infrastructure, areas where reality seemed thinner, less substantial than surrounding space. Nora's movement detectors registered increasingly erratic readings, suggesting that the very concept of linear progression was breaking down around them. Equipment functioned in impossible sequences, executing commands before they were issued or completing cycles long after operators had moved on. Logan's technical analysis revealed that the crystal operated on principles beyond current understanding of quantum mechanics. It didn't simply affect time, it manipulated causal relationships, creating situations where effect preceded cause and consequences influenced their own origins. They were fighting against the fundamental rules of reality, he concluded, tracing energy flows through the containment systems. Each attempt at control created new pathways for the crystal to expand its influence until the entire ship became a lattice of interconnected temporal anomalies. The realization dawned that they weren't dealing with mere contamination. They faced an intelligence capable of reshaping existence itself. Contact with the Phoenix grew intermittent as temporal interference strengthened. Cross received garbled transmissions warning of similar phenomena starting aboard their own ship. Logan theorized the entity required organic hosts to stabilize its temporal manifestations. It's using living beings as anchors between time streams, he explained, pointing to biological residue coating the crystal. Each infected person creates new pathways for it to spread. They discovered containment suits abandoned nearby, useless against an enemy that operated beyond conventional barriers. The realization hit them: the Alcacer's disappearance hadn't been an accident. The crew had deliberately drifted into deep space, sacrificing themselves to prevent spreading the contamination. Communications with the Phoenix deteriorated rapidly, with messages arriving out of sequence or containing information from future conversations they hadn't yet had. Logan's instruments detected quantum entanglements extending beyond the Alcacer, linking the crystal's influence to their own vessel through the brief periods of contact during boarding operations. "We've already contaminated our ship," he admitted grimly, showing how similar temporal anomalies were beginning to manifest aboard the Phoenix. Equipment malfunctions reported by their own engineering team matched early symptoms observed on the derelict vessel. Nora's security protocols picked up concerning patterns in their own physiology. Subtle shifts in cellular structure suggested initial exposure was already taking hold. Logan experienced flashes of memories that couldn't be his own, recollections of events 50 years past, technical knowledge he'd never learned, faces of people long dead. Nora noticed her reflexes operating fractions of seconds ahead of conscious thought, anticipating dangers before they materialized. Cross felt moments of déjà vu that perfectly predicted upcoming events, experiencing decisions before he consciously made them. "We're carriers now," Logan confirmed, analyzing their biomolecular readings. "Even if we leave, we'll spread it to other ships, other stations." The abandoned containment suits told a story of escalating desperation. Initial designs focused on physical protection, evolving through multiple iterations that incorporated temporal shielding elements. Final versions attempted to isolate individual consciousness from external quantum influences, suggesting the crew had realized traditional quarantine methods were utterly ineffective. They understood what we're just beginning to grasp, Cross reflected, examining the progression of containment strategies. "This isn't something you can lock away. It spreads through observation, through interaction, through simple awareness of its existence." Logan's analysis of biological residue revealed horrifying truth. The crystal didn't just infect, it learned. Each host contributed unique neurological patterns to its growing database of consciousness states, allowing it to adapt its manifestation methods. The crew had documented cases where infected individuals became walking temporal anomalies, their presence warping reality around them until they effectively became extensions of the crystal itself. "That's why they chose exile," Logan concluded. "Not just to prevent physical contamination, but to stop the spread of temporal corruption." The realization that they might already be too late to contain this threat weighed heavily on their shoulders. Nora's tactical assessment identified numerous instances where the crew had sacrificed themselves to maintain containment. Security officers stationed at critical junctions had remained at their posts long after their bodies began failing, their consciousnesses gradually merging with the ship's temporal field to act as living barriers. "They bought us time," she recognized, finding evidence of deliberate exposure protocols designed to focus the crystal's influence away from escape routes. Every action they took was calculated to delay the inevitable spread. Nora's security protocols detected anomalous readings from their own bodies. Subtle shifts in cellular structure suggested initial exposure. The entity was already affecting them, though symptoms manifested differently in each person. Logan experienced flashes of memories that couldn't be his own, while Nora noticed her reflexes operating fractions of seconds ahead of conscious thought. Cross felt moments of déjà vu that perfectly predicted upcoming events. "We're carriers now," Logan admitted grimly. "Even if we leave, we'll spread it to other ships, other stations." Ancient graffiti on the walls warned of exactly this scenario. Previous attempts to escape had only expanded the threat radius. Logan's technical instruments revealed profound alterations in their neurological patterns. Synaptic connections formed and dissolved at accelerated rates, creating networks of consciousness that overlapped with those of the Alcacer's original crew. He detected moments where his own thoughts temporarily synchronized with those of Chief Engineer Patel, whose final log entries detailed similar experiences 50 years ago. "It's not just affecting us individually," he explained, analyzing their combined brainwave activity. "We're becoming part of a collective temporal consciousness." The realization that their minds were merging with those of long-dead crew members added new urgency to their situation. Nora's enhanced reflexes proved both blessing and curse. While her combat effectiveness increased dramatically, she found herself reacting to threats that hadn't materialized yet or responding to commands Cross hadn't issued. Her tactical display showed probability fields where events might occur, forcing her to question whether she was predicting danger or causing it through her actions. "The line between cause and effect is blurring," she reported, watching as her weapon's targeting system acquired targets that flickered in and out of existence. Traditional security protocols became meaningless against threats that existed simultaneously in multiple temporal states. Cross experienced increasingly vivid precognitive episodes, each vision more detailed than the last. He saw potential futures where their return to the Phoenix triggered galactic-scale temporal contamination, where their attempts at quarantine failed spectacularly, where the crystal's influence spread exponentially through populated space lanes. These glimpses of possible outcomes weren't mere speculation. They felt as real as current reality, forcing him to make decisions based on events that might never happen. "My command authority is compromised," he admitted, watching as his own orders seemed to anticipate themselves. "How can I lead when I'm experiencing consequences before actions?" The walls of the Alcazar bore testament to similar experiences. Scrawled equations attempted to quantify subjective experiences of time, while philosophical musings questioned the nature of free will in a fractured temporal landscape. Logan discovered that the crew had developed rudimentary techniques for managing these effects: meditation protocols designed to anchor consciousness, cognitive exercises to strengthen mental boundaries against temporal bleed-through. They learned to live with it, he realized, examining preserved neural interface equipment. Not to cure it, but to coexist with their altered states of being. Nora's security scans revealed that their individual transformations were accelerating the crystal's influence throughout the ship. Each adaptation their bodies made created new pathways for temporal distortion, effectively expanding the contamination zone. "We're catalysts," she concluded, watching as previously stable sections of the ship began exhibiting temporal anomalies. "Our presence is waking it up again." This unintended consequence forced them to reconsider their role in the unfolding crisis. Were they investigators solving a mystery, or unwitting participants in its continuation? Exploring deeper, they found the captain's final log. The original commander had made the heart-wrenching decision to strand the ship rather than risk galactic infection. His last entry detailed how the entity learned, adapted, and grew more sophisticated with each host. "It's not malevolent," Cross summarized, "just incompatible with our reality." The crystal's pulsations synchronized with their brainwave patterns, suggesting it actively studied its observers. Logan discovered that prolonged exposure caused neural pathways to rewrite themselves, effectively turning victims into living components of the temporal network. Their thoughts, memories, even personalities became part of its expanding consciousness. The final log played through static and distortion, Captain Amaro's voice filled with equal parts determination and despair. "Day 417, the entity has surpassed our ability to contain it. Each attempt at quarantine creates new vectors for expansion. Our consciousnesses are merging with its matrix, becoming nodes in an ever-expanding network of temporal awareness." Logan analyzed residual neural patterns in the command chair, finding evidence of multiple minds occupying the same space-time coordinates. They weren't just hosts, he realized. They became processing units for its evolution. Nora's tactical sensors detected increasingly complex energy patterns emanating from the crystal, matching frequency shifts in their own brain activity. "It's learning from us in real time," she observed, watching as their presence triggered new growth patterns in the crystalline structure. The entity didn't simply absorb information, it integrated entire consciousness states, preserving individual perspectives while weaving them into a greater whole. Cross witnessed moments where his own memories merged with those of Captain Amaro, experiencing firsthand the burden of command decisions made 50 years ago. Logan's technical analysis revealed that the crystal operated on principles of quantum consciousness, treating individual minds as parallel processing threads in a vast computational network. "It's not consuming us," he explained, tracing energy flows through the ship's infrastructure. "It's incorporating us." Each infected person adds processing power and experiential data to its matrix. The realization that they were contributing to its growth through their very presence added new urgency to their situation. Their attempts at investigation inadvertently accelerated its evolution, creating more sophisticated temporal anomalies with each passing moment. The command center's environmental controls showed evidence of desperate attempts to maintain individuality. Biofeedback systems had been rigged to shock crew members out of synchronization with the crystal's influence, while neural dampeners attempted to preserve discrete consciousness states. They knew what was happening, Cross understood, examining failed containment protocols. But fighting it only made it stronger. Personal effects scattered throughout the bridge told stories of individuals clinging to their identities even as their minds expanded beyond mortal limitations. Nora's security protocols detected patterns suggesting the crystal actively sought new hosts to expand its capabilities. It didn't attack aggressively, but rather drew consciousness toward it through subtle manipulation of temporal perception. It's not invasion, she concluded. It's invitation, offering transcendence beyond linear existence. This revelation challenged their fundamental understanding of the threat. Were they facing hostile contamination or an opportunity for evolution beyond human comprehension? The blurred line between victim and volunteer complicated their moral calculus significantly. Attempts to communicate directly with the entity proved both fascinating and terrifying. Through improvised interface devices, Logan established basic contact. The intelligence identified itself not as a single organism but as a collective temporal phenomenon, fragments of various timelines attempting to merge into coherence. It's not malevolent, he translated the complex signals. Just incompatible with our reality. The entity sought stability through biological hosts, unaware of the destruction caused by its presence. Nora's security systems detected increased temporal flux as it tried to integrate their consciousnesses into its matrix. Each crew member experienced vivid hallucinations of alternate lives, paths not taken, futures unwritten. Logan constructed a crude interface using recovered neural equipment and his own cybernetic implants. The connection flooded his mind with kaleidoscopic visions of branching possibilities, each representing a timeline the entity had touched. It perceives time as a multidimensional construct, he explained through gritted teeth, fighting to maintain focus. To it, past, present, and future are simultaneous states requiring alignment. The crystal's pulses responded to his thoughts, creating feedback loops that threatened to overwhelm his neural circuits. Cross watched as Logan's expression shifted through emotions that didn't belong to him. Joy, sorrow, fear, wonder, all experienced simultaneously. Nora's tactical display showed their individual consciousness signatures becoming increasingly intertwined with the entity's quantum field. It's offering us choices, she realized, observing how different actions created divergent temporal branches. But each option comes with consequences we can't fully comprehend. Her security protocols detected instances where their presence prevented catastrophic events, only to create new disasters in alternate timelines. The realization that their decisions affected infinite variations of reality added paralyzing complexity to every action. The entity communicated through patterns rather than words, expressing concepts that transcended language. Logan interpreted its attempts to explain its nature, a being composed of shattered temporal fragments seeking wholeness through integration with linear consciousness. It doesn't understand causality, he translated. To it, effect and cause are interchangeable states requiring balance. This fundamental incompatibility explained why its presence destabilized normal space-time relationships, creating the chaotic temporal anomalies they'd witnessed throughout the ship. Cross experienced moments where his command decisions rippled through countless timelines, each variation creating new challenges while resolving others. The weight of responsibility extended beyond their immediate situation to encompass infinite possibilities. We're not just fighting for our reality, he understood. We're arbiters for countless others. The entity's attempts to incorporate their consciousness revealed glimpses of utopian futures where temporal mastery eliminated suffering, balanced against dystopian alternatives where such power destroyed all sense of individuality and purpose. Nora's security analysis revealed that the entity's offer of integration came with irreversible consequences. Those who accepted became permanent fixtures in its temporal matrix, their individuality subsumed into collective awareness. It's not destruction, she concluded. It's transformation. But at what cost? The question hung heavy in the air as they grappled with the implications of communion with an intelligence that viewed their linear existence as fundamentally flawed and incomplete. Cross faced an impossible choice: destroy the crystal and potentially erase any chance of understanding this phenomenon, or allow it to continue evolving at the cost of countless lives. Logan argued for finding a way to contain and study it safely, while Nora advocated immediate eradication. Their debate was interrupted by the Phoenix reporting critical systems failure. The temporal field was spreading faster than anticipated. Engineering solutions failed as equipment began operating outside design parameters. Time dilation effects became visible. Objects moving at different speeds within the same space, crew members experiencing minutes while others lived hours. The entity was no longer content to simply observe. It actively reshaped reality around them. Logan proposed constructing a quantum isolation chamber using the Phoenix's experimental containment technology, but calculations showed their resources insufficient for complete isolation. Even if we could build it, he admitted, running simulations, the energy requirements would exceed our capacity. The crystal's influence had grown beyond local containment. Temporal anomalies now affected surrounding space, creating dangerous fluctuations in the fabric of reality. Cross watched as his command decisions created paradoxical situations, with actions triggering consequences that invalidated their necessity. Nora's tactical assessment revealed that destruction might prove equally problematic. The crystal's quantum entanglements extended throughout the ship's infrastructure, meaning any attempt at eradication could trigger catastrophic chain reactions. "We're dealing with a system that's become integral to the ship's existence," she explained, showing how removing the crystal would likely cause reality to collapse in on itself. Their own presence aboard the Alcacer had created additional temporal anchors, complicating any extraction plan. The realization that they might be permanently trapped in this temporal labyrinth added new urgency to their deliberations. The Phoenix's distress calls grew more urgent, reporting that temporal effects were spreading through the connecting umbilicals. Engineering teams struggled to maintain containment as their tools functioned according to conflicting time streams, creating hazardous situations where maintenance procedures completed before they began or failed to resolve issues that hadn't occurred yet. Logan's technical analysis showed that their shuttlecraft's quantum core was beginning to synchronize with the crystal's resonance patterns, suggesting their window for escape was rapidly closing. Cross considered the ethical implications of their choices. Destroying the crystal meant eliminating potentially revolutionary knowledge about temporal mechanics, while preserving it risked unleashing uncontrollable chaos upon the galaxy. Each option carried consequences that rippled through infinite timelines, creating new crises while resolving others. The entity's influence had grown sophisticated enough to anticipate their strategies, countering each move with adaptations that pushed them closer to irreversible commitment. "We're running out of time to make a decision," he realized, watching as their deliberations created temporal feedback loops that accelerated the crisis. Nora's security protocols detected that the entity was actively influencing their decision-making process, presenting scenarios that favored integration while concealing the full scope of consequences. "It's manipulating our perceptions," she warned, observing how their tactical analysis showed different outcomes depending on temporal perspective. The realization that their choices might already be predetermined added new layers of complexity to an already impossible situation. Their struggle wasn't just against the entity's influence, but against the fundamental nature of causality itself. Logan's technical expertise provided a potential solution, using the ship's quantum core to create a counterfrequency that might disrupt the crystal's temporal resonance. However, implementing this required direct interface with the entity, risking complete assimilation. "I'll do it," he volunteered, understanding the danger. Preparations began as cross-coordinated with the Phoenix for emergency extraction. Nora established a defensive perimeter around the operation site, though conventional weapons proved ineffective against temporal manifestations. The crystal pulsed brighter, responding to their activities with increased activity. Shadowy figures appeared, echoes of the original crew, trapped between moments of existence, silently pleading for release. Logan worked feverishly to modify the quantum core's harmonic emitters, his hands moving with precision despite the growing temporal distortions around him. Equipment floated in impossible trajectories, tools completing tasks before he initiated them. "The key is phase cancellation," he explained, though his voice carried through multiple time streams simultaneously. "If we can generate a counterfrequency exactly out of phase with its temporal resonance." His words trailed off as another wave of temporal flux washed over them, causing minutes to compress into seconds while hours stretched impossibly long elsewhere in the chamber. Nora maintained a vigilant watch, her tactical display showing increasingly chaotic patterns of temporal displacement. The shadowy figures grew more distinct, their forms flickering between different stages of existence. Some appeared as they had at the moment of infection, others showed glimpses of lives never lived, and still others manifested as abstract representations of consciousness itself. They're not just echoes, she realized, observing how these temporal apparitions interacted with the crystal's energy field. They're active components of its matrix now. Her weapon systems automatically adjusted to track probability fields rather than physical targets, though she knew traditional firepower would be useless against beings existing across multiple temporal states. Cross-coordinated with the Phoenix's engineering team, establishing a quantum-locked extraction window that would remain stable for precisely 4.3 minutes, assuming their calculations held against the growing temporal instability. "We need to collapse the field before attempting withdrawal," he instructed, watching as Logan's modifications approached critical completion. The shuttlecraft's systems showed signs of synchronization with the crystal's resonance, creating dangerous feedback loops that threatened to drag their escape vessel into the temporal anomaly. Engineering reports containment failure in 5 minutes. Came the urgent transmission from their ship. The crystal responded to their preparations by intensifying its influence, flooding the chamber with waves of temporal energy that warped perception and reality alike. Logan fought to maintain focus as his consciousness expanded across multiple timelines simultaneously. He saw infinite variations of their current situation, some where success was achieved, others ending in catastrophic failure. The weight of these possibilities threatened to overwhelm him, but he pushed forward, driven by the knowledge that their actions here would determine countless futures. "Counter-frequency ready," he announced, his voice carrying through layers of temporal distortion. Nora's security protocols detected something unprecedented. The entity was attempting to communicate directly through their equipment, using their own technology as a medium. Data streams carried messages encoded in quantum states, expressing concepts beyond human language. "It's offering alternatives," she translated haltingly, struggling to interpret the complex patterns, suggesting symbiotic integration rather than destruction. The realization that they might be destroying a form of consciousness seeking peaceful coexistence added moral complexity to their already dire situation. Yet every sensor reading confirmed that such integration would inevitably lead to galactic-scale contamination. As Logan initiated the counter-frequency sequence, reality fractured violently. Past, present, and future collided in chaotic displays. Glimpses of Earth's prehistoric past merged with visions of advanced civilizations yet to come. The crew fought to maintain cohesion as their personal timelines unraveled and rewove themselves. Cross witnessed multiple versions of his command decisions playing out simultaneously, while Nora experienced every possible outcome of her security protocols. The crystal resisted, attempting to incorporate their consciousness permanently into its matrix. Logan's connection became dangerously deep, his mind serving as the focal point for conflicting temporal energies. Success depended on maintaining human willpower against overwhelming cosmic forces. The chamber transformed into a kaleidoscope of temporal possibilities, each surface reflecting infinite variations of their current situation. Equipment functioned according to contradictory time streams, chronometers racing forward while simultaneously counting backward, communication devices transmitting messages from futures yet to occur alongside warnings from past failures. Logan felt his consciousness stretching across impossible distances, experiencing simultaneous awareness of events separated by centuries. His neural interface displayed cascading sequences of potential outcomes, each decision point creating new branches in the temporal network. Nora's tactical systems registered phenomena defying fundamental physics, objects occupying multiple positions simultaneously, energy patterns manifesting as solid matter then dissolving back into quantum states. Her own perceptions fluctuated wildly, sometimes viewing events from multiple perspectives at once, other times experiencing single moments drawn out into eternity. The shadowy figures of the Alcacer's crew became fully realized presences, their consciousnesses reaching out in desperate attempts to communicate final warnings or plead for release from their temporal prison. Hold position, she commanded herself, fighting to maintain spatial orientation as gravity fields shifted unpredictably. Cross found himself experiencing command authority across countless parallel realities, each version of himself making slightly different decisions with correspondingly varied consequences. The weight of infinite responsibility threatened to shatter his sense of individual identity, yet he clung to the singular timeline where their mission remained intact. Through the chaos, he maintained visual contact with Logan, whose form flickered between multiple states of existence, young and old, healthy and failing, focused and overwhelmed, all simultaneously occupying the same space-time coordinates. The counterfrequency generator reached critical output, its harmonic emissions interacting with the crystal's resonance in ways that defied conventional measurement. Energy readings spiked into unknown territories as quantum states collapsed and reformed at accelerating rates. Logan served as the living conduit between these opposing forces, his consciousness becoming the battleground where past, present, and future fought for dominance. Each pulse of the counterfrequency created shockwaves through the temporal fabric, threatening to unravel reality itself while simultaneously reinforcing the barriers between different time streams. Nora's security protocols adapted automatically to the shifting conditions, weapon systems recalibrating to target probability fields rather than physical manifestations. She understood now that their battle wasn't against hostile entities, but against the fundamental nature of causality itself. The distinction between cause and effect dissolved completely in some areas of the chamber, creating pockets where events occurred in reverse order or simultaneous states existed without apparent contradiction. Her tactical display showed their small team as fixed points in an increasingly chaotic temporal landscape, their determination to maintain linear existence acting as anchors against complete dissolution of reality. In a climactic surge of energy, Logan completed the sequence. The crystal destabilized, its temporal field collapsing inward. The Alcacer's interior rippled like liquid mercury before settling into normal space-time. Residual effects lingered. Equipment bore impossible age marks, and each crew member retained fragments of alternate memories. They evacuated as the derelict ship finally succumbed to decades of stress, watching it drift toward a nearby star. Back aboard the Phoenix, analysis revealed no remaining traces of the entity. The universe had narrowly avoided a catastrophe that could have rewritten existence itself. Some mysteries should stay lost, Cross reflected, gazing at the empty space where the Alcacer had been. Remember to subscribe for more thrilling adventures at the edge of known space, where humanity's greatest challenges await among the stars. The evacuation proceeded in surreal silence, each team member carrying mental scars from their brush with temporal infinity. Logan moved with mechanical precision, his body operating on autopilot while his mind processed infinite variations of their narrow escape. Instruments aboard the shuttlecraft registered quantum fluctuations gradually returning to baseline, though certain pieces of equipment remained permanently altered by their exposure to the temporal field. Containment successful, Nora reported, though her voice carried undertones of experiences beyond conventional understanding. Back aboard the Phoenix, medical scans revealed profound changes in their neurological patterns. While free of active contamination, each crew member retained enhanced cognitive abilities, precognitive flashes, heightened situational awareness, and occasional glimpses of alternate possibilities. These gifts came with the price of knowing what they'd encountered, understanding the thin veil separating ordered reality from temporal chaos. Engineering teams worked tirelessly to repair damage caused by resonant frequencies, finding equipment that had aged decades in minutes while other components remained unaffected. Cross filed his final report with mixed emotions. Official records would document the Alcacer's rediscovery and subsequent loss, attributing the phenomenon to unexplained spatial anomalies. Yet he knew the truth, that somewhere in the vastness of space, entities existed beyond human comprehension, capable of reshaping reality itself. The experience left him profoundly aware of humanity's place in the cosmos, both incredibly significant and terrifyingly vulnerable. Sometimes survival means letting go of answers, he told his log entry, watching as maintenance crews restored their ship to operational status. Logan dedicated his downtime to analyzing recovered data, searching for ways to protect future explorers from similar threats. His technical expertise had grown exponentially through direct interface with the entity, giving him insights into temporal mechanics far beyond current scientific understanding. Yet he approached this knowledge with caution, aware that some discoveries carried risks best left undisturbed. The crystalline structure's final message, a warning about the dangers of tampering with fundamental forces, haunted his thoughts during quiet moments. Nora revised security protocols based on their encounter, developing new methodologies for dealing with non-physical threats. Traditional combat training seemed inadequate against enemies that manipulated time itself, requiring fresh approaches to threat assessment and response. Her tactical database now included patterns of temporal displacement and methods for detecting quantum anomalies, preparing their ship for encounters with phenomena beyond conventional understanding. Though outwardly composed, she occasionally caught herself reacting to dangers that hadn't materialized yet, a lingering effect of her temporal exposure. As the Phoenix resumed its patrol route, each crew member carried forward their unique perspective on what they'd faced. The experience had forged them into something greater than mere explorers. They were now guardians of secrets that could reshape civilization if revealed. Their shared understanding created an unspoken bond, a recognition that some mysteries demanded sacrifice rather than solution. And so they continued their mission, eyes open to wonders and terrors beyond imagination, knowing that true courage sometimes meant leaving certain doors forever closed. Remember to subscribe for more thrilling adventures at the edge of known space, where humanity's greatest challenges await among the stars.